In the spirit of the new year, let's talk about personal development goals for 2024. Whether your goals are concrete or related to emotion, therapy can play a pivotal role. A therapist can help you create SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Not sure where to start? A therapist can guide you through stress management, anger management, and various challenges that you might be facing. Now, let me tell you about our sponsor, BetterHelp. They've made starting therapy easier and less intimidating. With over 30,000 therapists in their network, BetterHelp matches you based on your needs, preferences, and location, providing a wide range of expertise. To begin your journey, fill out a questionnaire about your challenges and therapist preferences. In most cases, BetterHelp matches you with a therapist within 48 hours. Plus, you can choose phone calls, messaging, or video chat, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Scheduling is a breeze, and if you ever feel your therapist isn't the right fit, switch with a click of a button at no additional cost. No need to break up with your therapist and start the search anew. Join over 4 million people who've used BetterHelp to start living a healthier, happier life. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/JMC. That's betterhelp.com/JMC. Clicking that link helps support this channel, and it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. Remember, therapy is about your well-being, and BetterHelp is here to support you every step of the way. Thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Take care of yourself, and here's to a year of growth and positive change.
You said that having to do these podcasts, being vulnerable, opening yourself up to talking about this over and over again. How is it for you constantly discussing your story over and over and over again? Does it trigger you at all?
No. I'll give you an example. Like, during my struggle, I was meeting with this guy he was a doctor. They wanted to do an MRI of my brain. It showed some spots of blood. But he looked at me, and then he looked at the image. He called in his staff into the office we were in. He said, "You see this? You see him? He has no PSD, no post-traumatic stress."
Wow. When was this done?
2011.
Okay.
And when he announced it, I didn't know what it meant to have for a person to have post-traumatic stress. Not that I have it. And his eyes just looked at me differently, like, how is this possible? This guy survived a near-fatal car accident, 99% chance of death versus 1% chance of life, and he has no post-traumatic stress.
We're just kind of catching up now. It's been, I think it was a little bit before Christmas last year.
Yeah.
When we
2022.
Yeah.
Late
22. We had the interview. That was before my video portion was introduced. So you reached out. You wanted to get back on because there was a lot of things going on that we didn't get into, and there's some things you just alluded. There's been some changes.
Yes.
You wanted to get into like the business aspect of what you've been doing, and I'm sure there's other things you want to bring into the conversation as well. Where do you want to start?
Are we live right now?
Yeah.
I'll say I finally completed the audio version of my book. It's called The Inspirational Story of E94 Poetic, Chronicles of Adversities, Education, Sports, Relationships. I have 8 forewords. I'm a self-published author. I got 2 back cover reviews. My book is available on all major platforms such as Amazon, iTunes, Audible, Kobo, Spotify, Google Play, and all major platforms around the world. I went with ACX non-exclusive deal and Findaway Voices. The journey of recording an audio version takes patience. You have to envision yourself crossing the finish line. You have to be willing to work your vocal cords to do the long speaking. And then there's the editing process and redoing certain things that you may have missed or feel like you could do better with projection. And, I like to thank Coach Perez, formerly of Reading High School, who was my supporter of buying the audio version. Then there's the coach who used to coach at Hempfield, the basketball team. I just ran into him and a few other people I would mention.
Yeah.
But the journey of recording the audio version is it's one thing to listen to audio version, but when you go through the work of doing it, for me, it just resonated with me I was like, I'm about to speak my truth verbally.
Yeah.
And when you speak those words, you can't take them back. It's one thing for me to write them and type them, have them edited, but the whole vocal part is just, now I get to reach out to a new audience, such as those who want to listen to something in the morning that's a motivational. Somebody who wants to use this for a juvenile facility to show those who are making not good decisions, like, here's a person who overcame death and turned their life around without a PO, but there was a support system. And then there's also the fact that I can reach out to those who are, not that it's some people just illiterate.
Oh yeah.
Because they want to listen to something, but they learn differently, like how a person who's autistic learns differently, or a person who's ADHD learns differently. Because we all have a different way of learning, whether it's visually, audibly, or we learn by doing. And the audio version was finally completed, and I got the copyright letter. I own everything outright. I'm the first in my family on both sides to ever, that I'm aware of, self-publish a book.
Yeah.
And self-publish a audio version of my book, and self-publish a ebook version of my book. Those are all milestones that no one has ever achieved, and I'm proud of it. While at the same time, I'm grateful to those who helped me out behind the scenes.
I listening to you talk, one of the things that I'm thinking is writing the book, and also kind of like the point of where your life took off after the accident, and after you were able to kind of get back into the swing of things, fighting for your life, getting back. I was listening to the interview today that we had a year or so ago, when you talked about the let me grab that for you, bud. You got it?
Yes.
Having to go through physical therapy, the larynx was paralyzed, the trials and tribulations, but being able to pick all that up and go into this venture that you're in now, where you're writing this book, you're getting recognized. There's a lot of work that you're doing. You're doing a lot of work through your name, Ethan Poetic. Is that like is that a brand that you're building? Is that a business that can you explain that to me, like the entrepreneurial side of things?
I literally changed my name in the summer of 2021. I just felt it was time just to take on my full identity as a whole. It's been approved by the Lancaster County Courthouse, and it was done by a very good lawyer that I know. He's well reputable. Part of that change was just going through that self-discovery process while going through that car accident, and also just learn more about my history as far as from the island of Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that. Yeah,
who were full African Americans from Maryland, Virginia, and other parts. And that whole slavery part, I realized a lot of people who have certain English last names or Americanized last names, they don't actually belong to it. It actually belongs to the slave master who bought their ancestors. And for me, it's just I realized since my legacy was becoming greater and greater, why not take ownership of my own last name as a whole, give freedom for myself to say this is who I really am. I understand the Vaughn last name has been in my family for many, many decades, going back to Cambridge, Maryland. I did visit there last May, met a lot of people who visit the grave site, the church hall, the town hall, the dirt roads. I did get the blessing from my grandma before she passed away in 2017, right before I graduated from Hack. When I finally was able to do everything legally, I just felt more liberated to be more myself. Even though it doesn't show it on my regular Facebook page, for some reason Facebook doesn't want to accept it, even though I do have my Ethan Poetic Facebook page. It's more like informational and uplifting stuff.
Yeah.
Some people question why was I speaking in second and third person. It's just a way of telling you this is who I am.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't say this on Facebook. The other reason for changing my last name was just it's time for me to be my authentic self. Because I understand, like, for example, a person's last name identifies with a family trait, a talent, a gift, or something that's innate. Like, for example, one of my Puerto Rican family's last name is LeBron. We may hear LeBron James, and LeBron actually means king.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other family last name is Rivera, which means riverbank. It's just part of those examples. When it comes to my last name, Poetic, it goes back to creativity, freedom of expression. There is a mixture of poetry. It's more of the creative side that I get to explore. Something I wish I would have learned much sooner as a teenager, but I realized some things kind of circle back in a lot of ways.
Do you, when you said creative, and I'm thinking about the book, are there any other things that you're looking to get into that will involve your creativity?
Some people want me to write another book.
Yeah.
I realize if I do that, it's got to be just as good, if not better.
Well, I know we talked about at one point, you were talking about possibly like the what ifs of your story would be made into a movie.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning journey of just being encouraged to write a book by the Veronis family during the spring of 2020. I just finished that college semester, and it encouraged me to write an autobiography. And once I got started, there were some people who got in contact with me with these publishers. They said if I signed with them, they said they would turn my story into a movie with a music soundtrack, and they would get the majority lion's share, which means the majority of the profits financially. And I realized I can't do that because I can't allow someone to profit off my experience, my ingenuity. I can't allow someone to profit off of what I decided to do, go from victim to victor. Even though they may have the resources, I have resources as well to do it independently. You look at Dave Chappelle, you look at Tyler Perry, Steve Harvey, Denzel Washington. They're doing some of their things independently without the middleman and taking more credit. And since I took some film classes at Millersville University, I could do that. For example, I could create a documentary.
Yeah.
Be like a life's coming attraction. When it comes to making a movie and a soundtrack myself, I would just need the financial backing of that. That way I own everything outright. Like, for example, you look at the movie, the first one called Friday, starring Ice Cube and Chris Tucker. He put up his own money for the movie, but what ended up happening was some of the actors and actresses got paid very, very little because there was uncertainty about how the movie would do. It was done maybe less than 2 months, and the movie production decided to fit the bill for the rest of the funding. And that movie made multi-millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they profited off someone else's experience.
Well, your story would be a great example, a possible candidate for an independent film that could blow up. I mean, your story is that incredible. Have you ever thought about, like, if this were to be made into a movie, I would want this actor to portray me? Have you ever thought about that?
I never thought about any actor portraying me. I think
Somebody would have to, no?
I would rather portray myself because I lived it. It's kind of like you look at 50 Cent's movie.
Yeah, he played himself.
Eminem's movie.
You're right.
In that situation, I have to play myself because you can't go to acting school for what I experienced.
Yeah.
Because there's more layers than just putting on something to make you believe it and feel it.
Yeah.
It's just for me, I would have to go back in that timeline mentally.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I remember these feelings. The difference between now and then is this. When I was going through that stuff, I was legally on medicine.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back on it now, it's more, I'm not on any of that medicine. So now I'm more in touch.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's going to require me to be more vulnerable. It's going to require me to be more open, like how I do with some of these podcasts where I open up my heart all over again.
Yeah.
And, you know, for some reason, I understand that there's a story that needs to be told, a message, a meaning, and inspiring people. Like, for example, I contacted this guy named Mateo, who is a producer and works for 6 ABC Action News, coverage in New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. I contacted him about, can we do a story about me since I'm a native of Coatesville, Pennsylvania, and that's part of their coverage area?
Yeah.
He said yes. So I contacted this teacher who I've known for quite some time. I remember prior to this interview where it was her and her husband, other people, part of this football club, Coatesville area senior high school football booster club. And the married couple was telling me, you're going to speak at one of these schools and be on television. And, you know, that was being spoken into existence at that time. And then fast forward recently, I talked to the teacher over the phone. She talked to the principal, who talked to the superintendent. Green light, I talked to the principal. She already knew my family. And it was a green light, told Mateo the date. And when it was time to do everything at Kings Highway Elementary School, I was dressed up in a suit, haircut, had on my accolades, spoke to the kids, a lot of third graders, and the staff. We took pictures, high fives. There was maybe a few funny moments, and there was some serious moments where, you know, I had to be very transparent. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. 99% chance of death, 1% chance of life.
Yeah.
And that's something most kids don't experience, to have someone who represents a certain quote of diversity and inclusion, someone who can relate to them, but to also see someone in their classroom on a consistent basis where if Ethan could overcome this, I can overcome this math problem, this reading problem I have.
Yep.
Maybe a speech impediment.
Yeah.
Or dyslexia or whatever it is. And I explained to him, you know, I used to struggle with math in college, but how I got better was raising my hand for help, meeting with the college professors, the tutors, a private tutor. And now I became stronger, turned that area of struggle into a strength. So now I gave them the tools, and by example, they could turn their struggles into strength. And when I was finally able to get that interview done, I felt like I made my mark in Coatesville, the city, the community, the school district, and beyond. And I was very grateful for that opportunity. All the people supported me. I even went to the school board meeting to thank the superintendent in person. That way, in case another television channel like Fox, CNN, Oprah Winfrey Network, or many others want to do a story of me in one of the schools in Coatesville, or maybe here in Lancaster, all I gotta do is just say, let's do this again, this time at a different school. And that time, this time the principal in Coatesville will say yes. I'm pretty sure the superintendents will say yes as well, both in Coatesville and Lancaster. But ultimately, the story resonated for a lot of people, where they see someone who was a struggler, but now a thriver.
One of the things you mentioned that I wanted to jump back on was you said that having to do these podcasts, being vulnerable, opening yourself up to talking about this over and over again. How are you able to? Because one of the things that I noticed the first time we talked and since is you're very busy. You're actively going to places. You just mentioned talking in public spaces. How is it for you constantly discussing your story over and over and over again? Does it trigger you at all?
No, I'll give you an example. Like during my struggle, I was meeting with this guy he was a doctor. They wanted to do an MRI of my brain. It shows some spots of blood, but he looked at me, and then he looked at the image. He called in his staff into the office we're in. He said, "You see this? You see him? He has no PSD, no post-traumatic stress."
Wow. When was this done?
2011.
Okay.
And when he announced it, I didn't know what it meant to have for a person to have post-traumatic stress. Not that I have it. And his eyes just looked at me differently, like, well, how is this possible? This guy survived a near-fatal car accident, 99% chance of death versus 1% chance of life, and he has no post-traumatic stress. Not even a sign, a symptom. Because some people who come back from the military have that stuff.
Yeah.
And they go visit the VA hospital for, certain resources. I don't have that. And I feel like I'm amazed. But at the time period, I didn't understand it. I'm not triggered by it because I already overcame it. But I also realized during that time period, I was on all those medicines.
Right.
And it wasn't like I was trying to be some hippie or anything. It's just when you have like pain, pain of like a concussion.
Yeah. You got to do what you got to do, though. Right?
Yeah, because normally I'm sensitive to this light. I can't eat. I'm skinnier than the pen. But when I went through that whole detox situation, where I was getting weaned off all that medicines, all of a sudden all my body spot senses start coming back to me. And then I realized certain things had to be addressed, and I ended up going to counseling more about expressing, hey, I couldn't make it to these funerals. And it wasn't until March of last year where I was interviewed by Marquise Lumpton of the Southeast Times.
Shout out to Marquise. I know Marquise.
One statement that really put out, that really resonated with me, it kind of explained why I was having this emotional roller coaster when I used to come up to my anniversaries, was having survivor's remorse.
Okay.
And that pretty much explained everything, because I didn't know I was going through that, because I'm like, I'm not addicted to any drugs, alcoholism, or anything of that sort. But once I saw that statement, kind of like the light bulb went off, like that's what I was experiencing. I may have felt on a subconscious level guilty of not being able to make it to the funeral and burials, even though I wasn't physically capable of being there.
Yeah.
And then there's also like the thought of, now I know how to relate to people even more, like survivors more. Like, for example, parents happen to bury their child or even grandchild, someone burying a dear loved one.
Yeah.
Someone, again, with the military losing a buddy. It's endless possibilities of survivor's remorse, but there's also survivors. I forgot the opposite word of remorse. It's more like a breakthrough.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't think of the word either. Well, when you say, you said that you don't suffer from PTSD, but you're also experiencing survivor's remorse.
Well, I used to, because once that statement, like I read it in that paper when he gave it to me at the Southern Market here in Lancaster City, it kind of like lit off a light bulb. Like, oh, that's what I was feeling. I wish I had known that statement.
At that time you were feeling that. Back then you're talking.
Yeah, I wish I had known that statement much sooner instead of later, because that would have gave me a breakthrough much sooner, because I just wouldn't understand what was going on inside here. But eventually, I feel that gave me more closure moving forward.
I got you.
And it adds more to me having a reason of having a celebration of life for every anniversary moving forward.
Well, talk to me about this then, Ethan, because we didn't talk about this the first time around. You were in a very tragic and near fatal accident. Unfortunately, some people did pass away, a child and a woman. Am I correct?
It was my aunt's.
Your aunt.
Aunt's uncle.
Okay.
That would be her fiance.
Okay. He passed away, and a child, correct?
Yes.
And so then talk to me about when you realized, oh, I was dealing with survivor's remorse. What was survivor's remorse like for you? during that time of rehabilitation and going through what you were going through?
Let's see. I remember just waking up. Let's see. There was a time where I woke up on cloud 9.
Yeah.
I don't remember that time period. The medicine was heavy.
Okay, I got you.
Then they relaxed it more, and then I woke up like, well, I'm in this hospital. They didn't want to tell me anything. For like 2 days, they were thinking my blood pressure would go up. And then they finally told me, and it just was like, whoa. At first, I thought I was the only person who went through it. And then they broke the news of everything else. I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but I just don't feel it.
Okay.
Because I'm on this medicine, it's like, wow. I couldn't see my aunt. She was in the room across from me. I couldn't see my other cousin. He was up in I think he went to the children's hospital up in Hershey. And then the last image I see of my uncle, just him driving, was going past the Olive Garden in that Hess gas station on Route 30, right near the Rockville outlets. And the last image I remember seeing of my cousin before he passed was him being on my right hand side. And that's it. That's my lasting images of those two people. I was able to talk to his mom, and it was a conversation that probably was long overdue, where I told her, her child's moments before he passed, even though it's just one time.
Yeah. How did you handle the loss? I think what I'm trying to get at is you've done so much to get to where you are now. It's easy for somebody to look at you and go like, wow, that was really amazing. But along with the physical therapy and everything that you were enduring, were you also dealing with a lot of emotional and mental stress from the fact that you lost some loved ones?
There was, but I was able to keep moving forward. That wasn't the stress part. The stress part is a whole nother thing where, for example, I talk about it in the book where, how I say this, I'll just be straightforward since we're on the journey, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Basically, I get a call from my stepmom, and she tells me she wants to have lunch with me. And this is when I'm finally able to eat again. And I was happy to see everybody. It was me, her, and my brother, younger brother. We're eating at Perkins on Route 30. Seemed like a good time, but then she dropped a bomb on me telling me my estranged father is not going to help me get my life back together. And that's when I lost my appetite. Like, what? I was telling myself on the inside, like, you mean to tell me you brought me out here for this? You decided to be the messenger for this, even though she's traditional. You're being submissive to your husband.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my brother's looking at me like he it's not his fault. He didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
And then after that, she paid the bill. I get dropped off at the Manheim Township High School for their basketball game. LL playoffs. Sports is the outlet. Catch up with a lot of people I know. Then from there, I get dropped off home by a different group of people. And then one of the biggest things I can say with turning discouragement into encouragement was I ended up getting my driver's license. And my first car I got was a 95 Ford Taurus. And once that car had its days numbered.
Yeah.
It was time to get a new car. And there's this woman who's married. She ended up taking me to the York Apple Honda up in York. She was asking me, what type of car am I going to get? I said, a nice car. So I go inside, meet the guy. He treats me very well. Takes me out for a test drive for a red Honda Civic 2016. I like the test drive. I said, I want this car. He said, you sure? Yes, I want this car that's right at the showroom. And then the woman comes back to me and says, what type of car you getting? I'm getting that car. She said, no way, Ethan. No way. I said, yes way. I'm about to sign the paperwork. She goes into her pocket, pulled out her cell phone. She said, smile, click, click, click. Started taking pictures of me getting in the car, getting out of the car, being in front of the car. Then she puts me on a positive blast and sent it to all her friends, including her future husband at the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I left out of there a new man with that brand new car. I gave a ride to certain people just to allow them to enjoy the fruit of my labor. And then when I go back to Coatesville, I got my picture taken in front of the Welcome to Coatesville sign near the Kent tennis court. And as I'm going back to my car, I hear somebody's voice. I look back, it's my dad. He's at the red light. And what he doesn't know is I got a brand new car, my driver's license. So I pulled out my car keys, opened my car door. His eyes widened. He said, that's a nice car. Drove off. And he probably didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is that for everyone out there, don't allow someone to discourage you that's not going to support you from not living your own life and achieve what you need to achieve. I could have easily been a victim, but instead I tried to be the victor and turn all that energy that was given to me into something much greater, because energy is not lost or gained, it's transferred into something.
Absolutely. You had mentioned that you just saw your father for the first time in 7 years.
Yes.
When did this take place?
There was this judge in Coastal that was interested by my book. I go there. It's inside his magistratal court room, but I just missed him. So I left a note for him. As I'm writing the note, I see someone coming in the door, and it's my dad, and I'm like, wow, here he is. So we had this conversation, and basically things were just more, he finally wanted to have that talk because he finally heard word back that I do talk about my relationship with him in the book. It's, again, something he didn't see coming.
Yeah.
And I explained to him, like, you always talked about me wanting to do good in education, but you just wasn't there for the parent-teacher conferences, the IEP meetings, no rapport or relationship with the teachers or the administrators. Because in order for someone to get off an IEP plan, you got to take part of the process.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to show that you're part of the team, not just being vocal about it. Because like a coach with any sports team, a coach can try to coach you up on what to do, but he has the assistants helping them out. He has the people in the booster club helping him out. He has support from the athletic director, athletic department. He also has support from the cheerleaders, the band, the alumni, the parents with the carpooling, and certain places to do camps or training or clinics.
Absolutely.
Just like with parenting, it takes a village to raise a child.
Absolutely.
We can say, oh, my dad wasn't there, like me. Instead, I realized my village helped me. From those who are Amish and Mennonites to a guy who was a neighbor next to me, where it turned into a father-son relationship where he said, I'm like a son to him. Then there's also different people coming into my life helping me. I can relate that story. It relates to someone who could be Charlie Wilson, who was, going through his battle with drugs and alcoholism, where he said he had a brick as a pillow. He was sleeping underneath a car. And then one day, he got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and he got the help he needed. He checked in. He got the help he needed from the woman who was in charge of the facility, the mental health facility or rehab place. He had other people helping him along the way. Because if a person doesn't want to go from victim to victor, 9 times out of 10, they end up pushing their help away. And that could have been your breakthrough to become a better version of yourself. Going back to my situation, it's just, I said what I need to say to him, and he was quiet for quite some time. There's some situations I talk about in the book where there was a time where I did live with him, but again, it goes back to communicating, because you can't make some decision on certain things about your child without your child's input, because a child has a seat at the table, therefore they got a voice. They're the one experiencing these choices.
Right.
Just like how a parent wants to know, how are you doing in school? It's got to be reciprocal. Because if you become in a one-side relationship, it's not going to work. If you have this highway or the my way mentality, it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because eventually it creates resentment. It creates a lot of underlying pain for people involved. And eventually it's going to come out. Whether it's an adversity, a disagreement, or something that's going to trigger. It's like, for example, some people think because some people are in a marriage, things are going to get better. No, that doesn't happen. It just means things get more highlighted. Because the things you can sweep under the rug is still there, because the things you're meant to sweep under the rug are meant to be swept up in the dustpan and put inside the trash can.
Yeah.
So therefore, when you do lift up that rug, it's a clean slate. Just like in a relationship, when you clean things out the right way within your heart and your mind, you're going to have a clean slate moving forward of overcoming things instead of enduring things. I understand life is never easy, but eventually we have to be willing to do the work ourselves. And if we need help, call somebody, text somebody, email somebody, write a letter to somebody. The resources are there for anyone's mental health.
Yeah. How was it then in regards to when we talked last about this? You said you weren't sure about the door being left open for your dad to come back into your life. When he kind of is there now after 7 years, are you still feeling that same way? Is it still, the relationship is still where it was, where you left off before the 7 year, and now do you see an opportunity with your father now, or like how is that like?
The honest truth was just, I feel like he's my biggest hater.
You think he's hating on you?
Yeah, it's like, for example, I got featured on 6 ABC Action News. Again, it's something he didn't see coming. I never received any words of affirmation from him saying, I'm proud of you for graduating from college. I never heard any words of affirmation like, I'm proud that you made the newspaper, got the proclamation declaration from the Lancaster City Council, being the first in the family to receive an award from the Democrats and Republicans, getting recognized at the Pennsylvania State Capitol with the Award of Excellence. I don't hear no words of affirmation from him. I hear words of affirmation from other people.
Yeah.
And I realize in order to, let's like the quote from Malcolm Gladwell said, in order to have a bright future, you have to have a good present. And it's like with a car. In order for your car to be durable, you got to keep up with the maintenance, was checking the tire pressure, your oil changes, clean the outside, clean the inside.
Yep.
Get the tires rotated. That way you're able to pass the emissions and inspection tests. Just like in a relationship with somebody, there's times where things would be tested. It might be a certain habit that might trigger somebody. But when we really identify certain things that trigger us, some of these things go back to our childhood. And some of those things go back to our childhood because there's certain moments where we didn't feel loved or appreciated. As far as going back to what I'm saying before, I realize I'm not the only person who has an estranged relationship with a biological parent. And I look at plenty of success stories like Dante Culpepper.
Okay.
He was in foster care, and look where he is now. He got drafted in the first round by the Vikings.
Yeah.
Played for Miami Dolphins, also known as South Beach. You can look at LeBron James, drafted in the first round by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Now in that same community he grew up in, created a school there. Now that everyone has an equal opportunity chance for a high quality education. You can also look at my story as Michael Orr's story. who was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, where it was his movie in the book was called The Blind Side, where he grew up without a father, but also grew up with another parent not making good choices as well. But he became the first in his family, became a multi-millionaire, breaking generational curses, became the first to set the example for generational wealth. He had support. You can also look at the story of the homeless at Harvard story, where the person who was homeless was very bright. So bright that she got accepted into an Ivy League school, which has a low acceptance rate. And then you can look at my story as I overcame the death. I graduated from college twice. I got 4 types of book: softcover, ebook, hardcover, and an audio version of the book.
Yeah.
Then you can also look at I received the Award of Excellence from the state capital of Pennsylvania and many other accolades that I have framed in my Michaels frame. Like, I'm moving forward, and the best is yet to come because I haven't even become a husband, a father, or a homeowner yet to sign up the dotted lines.
There you go. There you go. I saw you walked in with some things with you. What do you got there?
The Award of Excellence.
Okay, let's show that. Let's show that bad boy there. Look at that. Now talk about when did you receive this?
I officially received this. Let's see. I officially was recognized by Ishmael Smith Waddell. His mom is the late Dr. Rita Waddell. And the House floor speaker was Joanna E. McClinton on October 16th, 2023. I was accompanied by a woman named Melissa. She graduated from Penn Manor High School and Penn State University with a bachelor's degree, and also Coach Cy Emery, who was a Carlisle educator and coach for the basketball program.
Okay.
It was a special moment to be there with being recognized. It was a true honor, a blessing. I had mentioned it to state representative of the 49th Legislative District of Lancaster City and beyond, because they redid the borders and the boundary lines.
Yeah.
And I was dressed up in my suit, got recognized, waved my hand, took pictures. Afterwards, we had lunch. And it was a fun feeling day. I didn't go to work that day.
There you go. I think that's worth it.
Yeah. And then I also got recognized by Voice Phoenix, a magazine company out of the West Coast.
Okay.
The title is called Meet Ethan Poetic of Lancaster. It has on my pictures, my logo. This was issued June 2023. And then, of course, the Southeast Times.
Yeah.
Where I was interviewed by Marquise Lumpton.
Yeah.
And it was an honor and privilege to be featured on the front page. Here on these pictures is me getting ready for my... this is where I officially signed my deal with Red Rose Bookstore.
Okay.
They're the only place that believed in my story and believed in my book as an indie author, self-published author at that, to have a consignment agreement with them. This picture is me with a pool table, a pool stick, in my book with a nice suit, a shirt, where I officially announce I am a self-published author on all social media platforms. I remember on Facebook, over 500 likes, over 100 comments, over 50 shares. And this is me right here having my book signing day at Millersville University. It was right in front of it was inside the SMAC building, Student Memorial. It was in front of the bookstore.
Okay. Or
consignment store or apparel store. And I'm glad they allowed me to be there. Then I also had a book signing day in Lancaster. It was a good turnout there. Then I also had a book signing day in Coatesville at the Innovation Center. The owner of the property is Susan Springsteen. And it was a great time there where I also left my mark around that time last year. And of course, this is my hardcover book.
Okay. I
Knock
remember.
on wood.
Yeah, you were working on that last time we talked. Okay.
Yes, the difference is a simplified
I
version.
like that. Yeah.
Yep, a laminated case. That way no dust gets on the hardcover. Again, 8 forewords, 2 back cover reviews.
There you go.
I own everything outright. And it's been selling like crazy. Like, I'll say IHOP.
Yeah. Yeah, selling like hotcakes.
Yes, people like the quality of a book, of a hardcover, because it reminds them of going to school where those books last long.
Yeah.
Going back to elementary, high school, middle school. And there's also some people who like to, have their tea and open up a hardcover. So hardcover is good as well. The difference between the two is a hardcover. The design has to be more simplified.
Yeah.
But on a soft cover, make it how you want as long as you meet the standards of Ingram Spark.
Talk to me about how busy you are, Ethan, because you're talking about the book, the different ways you've delivered your story through the book. You're a lot of motivational speaking. There's a lot of different hands you're shaking. You talked several times about you putting on that suit. You're smiling. You're waving. When did this start for you? This career path, this path of sharing your story and also marketing yourself as this inspiration to the public.
I'll go back before it became the car accident. I originally was a spoken word artist where I wrote my own lyrics, my own songs, speeches, and spoke at certain places. Car accident happens and my larynx goes to a restarting phase. One of the things that happened was several things that happened. First, my story was published in the newspaper. And you see a car cut in half. Then it's featured on television outlets where it shows the car cut in half. And one day, that summer of 2011, I'm at the Mia Heights Golf Club and Jordan Steffi calls me up. He had that look. I knew it was coming because he used to be a student athlete at Maryland University and Conestoga Valley High School. And he's also a recent graduate of Columbia University. And he's supported by his beautiful and lovely wife, Mrs. Keandra Bear Steffi, and their 3 children. And during that summer, before they had children, in the summer of 2011, he calls me up. I'm skinny as a bone. I got this feeding tube in me, but my shirt covers that. He puts his arm around me. He speaks. And then he pretty much shocks the room and says, Ethan's going to graduate with a college degree. I looked at him like, what did he just say? And it's just, he must have been really praying powerfully, putting me on a prayer list. Like, I believe in him so much, I'm going to speak it into existence in front of all the donors, board members, the guests. Some of the guests were NFL football players like Darius Hayward-Bay. There's a few other people as well. And, people who start feeling sad for me, shedding tears. They stop drinking certain beverages. And they came up to me and like, is there anything you ever need, Ethan? Here's my business card. Just call me or email me. Here comes the picture taken and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just remarkable. I remember that day like it was yesterday. Then the second thing that happened when I finally did make the recovery, there's this guy who I've known since 2010. He was going to middle school at Lancaster Country Day. He had his teacher say, she she's looking for a person who has experience in spoken word and poetry. She didn't want to just teach it out of a book like she's knows it all. So that's when he contacts me in person. I said yes, and I get called in for the interview. And then from there, I passed with flying colors. I had on my clearances, of course. And the day I was just leading up to everything, like, am I really going to do this or not? Because it's the first time I'm speaking about spoken word and poetry, first time in a long time. Because I just wasn't uncertain because my mind from that concussion hit the reset button. And when I got in the doors, I'm like, I'm ready to do this. I get introduced. I didn't tell kids about this inspirational story because I just wasn't ready to be open about that just yet.
Yeah.
I was more speaking about the history of spoken word, how I write, and I encouraged them all to write things in their own words and tell their own stories. One kid came up, started writing on the board. The teacher started smiling. Then more and more kids start being active. It became more like a poetry workshop without a teacher being there.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I can make a living doing this,
speaking
in these classrooms and schools. And that's what inspired me to do what I do now. But it's also a situation where when I started working again, formerly of the school in Lancaster, when I used to do the sports program, whether it be football, basketball, track and field. And there was a time I did something else for the school district as well. And, parents, as you are, want to know who's working with your kids.
Sure.
Because sometimes HR in general can miss certain things. Like, for example, at Mills University, they didn't know anything about my story until the television people came. And as it relates to me working for the school in Lancaster, certain parents start asking, who I am. And then they would show up and say, is this you from the car accident and you're here working here?
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, that is me. And they were just like, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it at the time. Because I thought, hey, I recovered. Here I am going to college. I'm a productive member of society. I can just go off on my life. But life has a way of, we need to get more out of you.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, though, is that when life says we need to get more out of you, you're doing it. Which is why I brought up that question is like, you're consistent. You're staying active. You're staying busy. What's your day like? Like, walk me through your day. What are you doing? How busy are you?
I'll set the record straight first. I no longer work for a certain company, and I miss it very dearly with working with the kids, whether it be the teacher assistant, kids with special needs. There's certain things that kids, didn't experience. A man that's educated, a man that's from the community, and looks like them, and then for their parents to tell them about me. And then certain parents invite me to certain gatherings, like a Sweet 16, stop at this after-school program, meet them at this park.
Yeah.
And it's time where kids show up to me inside Walmart, maybe Target, and give me a hug by the legs. And I look at the parent, they look at me. Sometimes they don't know who I am until I give them around, like, I help your kid at this school. Like, oh, I remember you when I drop my kid off, I see you in the front or after school.
Yeah.
Those memories are very priceless for me. It's just when I used to wake up in the morning, it should be like, I'm going to be at this school. I'm going to be with this student. This teacher knows who I'm going to be with. And, I did that for 3 years. But eventually, it's time for a change. And part of the change was just going into my business more full time.
Okay, that's what it was then.
Yes, I can say that. And then there's just a situation where you start to outgrow certain places.
Sure, yeah.
And when you reach a certain ceiling and you feel like you've done all you can, And, unfortunately, things could have ended better on certain things. I was able to have a conversation with certain principals and tell them, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, I'm no longer working for such and such company. I don't want to like leave you high and dry. I'd rather give you that closure.
Yeah, absolutely.
In person, I respect. I appreciate you allowing me to have a meeting with you, and then I can mix it in with showing my accolades, showing what I'm about to do next in life. I was able to tell certain students I miss them. They miss me dearly, but I still see them sometimes in the public eye. Yeah. Sometimes they see me on social media, television, and other places. I still go to certain venues. They allow me to see certain people in the same space. It just won't be in the classroom or playground setting as much anymore because life has a way of saying, let's move on to another phase in life. Let's move on to something maybe bigger and better.
Yeah.
And it did lead to that, where I did speak at a school in Coatesville.
Okay.
And I got featured on 6 ABC Action News.
There you go.
And I just look forward to my business thriving more because, I've come a long way. I've been encouraged by a lot of people. And, it's just, as an entrepreneur, there's times where I have things planned out, like I'm going to be at this place, that place, that place. And there's certain times where I get invited to certain places or meetings. There's certain places where I'm doing the networking. And then after I get done the networking, go to a basketball game or a football game. Then there's certain times where I might travel out of state. There might be certain times where I travel to different counties.
So you're busy. You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I handle all my scheduling myself. I check my emails. I check my calendar. I check my social media. I post everything myself.
You do that all on your own. You don't have anybody helping you.
Yes and no.
Okay.
The yes part is I handle my business myself.
Sure.
As a CEO, founder, and therefore I own everything I write. Where the help comes in is like, the Journeyman podcast and many other people allow me to be on their platforms, share my experiences on there.
Yeah.
Then there's also the news people. Then there's also being involved with the professional side of things.
But you don't have an assistant or something?
Not yet.
To help you schedule and manage your time? Like, how are you doing that? I would need, I see how busy you are, and I know I don't know half of it. So I would need an assistant.
I use 2 calendars. I use 2 calendars. There's the calendar for the school in Lancaster, and there's my other calendar that I'll give you an insider trade. I bought this one calendar from CVS by using my coupons to get a discount, and that calendar is good for 2 years.
Okay.
And it costs less than $3.
There you go.
I get to plan things by the hour, by the day, or far out. And it just allows me to have my own flexibility. And it also allows me to be myself to its true T. I look at the School District Lancaster calendar and look at which sporting events I may want to attend, which after school program I may want to attend. Or it might be a situation where, they're having this alumni thing coming up. I might want to be there. Or it could be a situation where I might get invited someplace by a principal because some principals might use my book as professional development. Like, here's a person who grew up in your community, who overcame his adversities. They can also use my book as to inspire certain parents and guardians to make better choices and create a better home life.
Yeah.
And that does require doing work inside your heart and mind and self-discovery. And there's also some people might share my links of these interviews because it's going to reach somebody.
Yeah.
Because you never know what somebody's going through or what they're experiencing until you sit down and have a conversation, whether it's over breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a snack. Then there's also some situations where, I have freedom while at the same time I still find something to do productively every single day. There will maybe come a day where I may have an assistant. There may come a day where I have to evolve maybe into a nonprofit.
Sure.
Where, when you have a nonprofit organization, you gotta evolve. Like I learned from Dr. Umar. Basically, if you have a nonprofit like a church, are you using your funding that you're being supported by to start a school, start a bank, a hospital, or a supermarket?
Okay.
You know, I look at the Atalo Prep nonprofit organization. They have started, you know, they've always used their funding for supporting the students. And also I can look at the way at Jesus Academy School, where they started as a nonprofit and evolved into a school, which is an academy here in Lancaster. And, you know, I just look at bigger and better things, and I look at certain people's websites to see, well, what can I change about my website?
Sure.
What wording can I choose? What's a certain thing I can add to my contract when it comes to speaking engagements? One thing I want to tell people for the record when it comes to me doing speaking engagements and my books is I value my services. I value my products because I put my own resources into everything. I put my all into everything. I did have help with someone help editing the book, mixing and editing. Those people are behind the scenes.
Sure.
And when you see my face on this book, you have to understand that you're looking at a finished product of a book, not a promotional book. When it comes to me doing these speaking engagements, you have to understand that that's time away from my life, my business, traveling on the road.
Yeah.
And I also have to make an honest living. So moving forward, I just want to say for the record, I value my services, I value my products, and I do have boundaries. And if you want to do a serious inquiry on a speaking engagement, whether it's at your school, church, event, corporate event, a summit, panel discussion, you name it, just fill out my request form on ethanspeaks.com. And once you fill out the information, I will review everything and make a decision to make sure everything aligns. I also want to give a shout out to my mentor, Bob Paul, who's been my mentor since 2020.
Okay.
It's always great to have a mentor or multiple mentors to learn from people who are
I
more
agree.
advanced in life.
Yeah.
And they can tell you certain things about, hey, I went through this journey. You're going to make it. And I'm in the third year of my business. Normally, some guys say 80% of businesses fail within 5 years.
That's interesting.
And I'm in the third year of my business, and I like to thank all the people who supported me with purchasing my book, whether it be online, in person, or contacting me through social media, my cell phone or email when I mail it out to you through Media Mail, and trusting me with your P.O. boxes, your mailing addresses, and trusting me with paying me through Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and also Zelle, and trusting me with, writing a message and make sure it's autographed when you buy it from me directly. Then there's also trusting me with, not doing anything bad, because I want to maintain being a reputable brand.
Yeah, it's important to you.
Yes. I like to thank all the people who allowed me to speak at certain places, who value me. I like to thank the kids who gave me their undivided attention. I like to thank the staff members at certain schools who allowed me to be myself at the schools. Whether it be when I was working there or speaking there, I just want to say, certain people think I'm being a friend with the kids. I just want to set the record and say, and you're hearing it from me, I'm more than a friend with the kids because they know my story. They see me on television. They see me on podcasts. They see me on social media. They see me in the newspaper. I can't hide, even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I'm not even on America's Most Wanted yet.
Well, I hope you're never on America's Most Wanted.
I'm adding a little joke to it. Yeah. But I just want to say, everyone, is that there's a purpose behind me being on Earth still. And again, I'm more than a friend with these kids. I looked up to them as a childhood idol.
Yeah.
a role model, an inspiration, somebody who they say, oh, I'm struggling in the same area where Ethan's struggling. Like, for example, some kids can relate to me with being on an IEP plan.
Huh.
And I can tell them, like, you can use that IEP plan by make sure you save it as the physical copies. Make copies of that, email it to yourself, make a PDF, and of course, make a PowerPoint of your IEP plan. So that way, when you go to further your education, whether it's in a trade,
Yeah.
military, college, they can give you certain accommodations, giving you more time for your tests, quizzes, or more individualized thing. When it came to my situation on being an IEP plan, it's more of a situation where I was targeted because I'm at a certain status quo, going back to Coastal Area School District, where I grew up in a single parent household of 5. And unfortunately, I was on it. It has its blessings and its curses, accommodating, but it doesn't allow someone to learn at a certain pace.
Gotcha.
I was able to get out of certain IEP classes and phase off of that in certain areas. But again, I just want to tell you that there's certain information I didn't know back then that I know over time. It's kind of like you look back on certain things like, I wish I'd known this better, known this information sooner. Therefore, I experienced a breakthrough. But at the same time, during that time period, I was followed a different group of people who are helpful, but I became greater later.
Yeah.
And became a better version of myself. And now I can share that blueprint and those experiences with people and parents that you can turn your adversities into your advantage, whether you're a single parent, because eventually you write the chapters of your own life. And I recently learned from this one guy who's a city manager of Coastal, where he said most kids spend more time at school than they do with their parents. Because there's millions of single parent households, and a lot of people are profiting off someone's disadvantages of not having a man in the household, whether he's pushed away, passed away, incarcerated, or not being there, whatever the reason may be. And then certain women want a stepdad to come in the picture to take care of a child that's not theirs biologically or legally. But there's certain times where a man has to check his ego, his pride, like, I can't discipline that child. Only the biological mother can. But the roles can be reversed where there's a stepmom that might come in where she has to check her ego and say, I can't discipline the child because I got to leave that to him.
Yeah.
Because it's like a situation where you take on responsibility but don't have the authority. But all that changes when someone has a marriage license or someone legally adopts somebody. But ultimately, I just want to tell all the kids that look up to me, you'll still see me around. You can look at my social medias and all the other stuff that your parents show as a blueprint for you to overcome your own adversities, because I didn't give up, neither should you. As far as me being busy, I just see it as being productive.
Yeah.
Because here I am, I get to choose things I want to do in my life, get invited to certain places. Hopefully I get invited to the White House.
Okay.
Hopefully I get invited onto Oprah Winfrey's television.
Yeah.
Hopefully I get on the Steve TV.
Okay.
And many other things, because there's so much more I want to do.
Well, what do you want to do? That was my next question to wrap this interview up. Is you mentioned you left the job to start pursuing this more full time. What's the next big thing that you'd like to start doing for your business?
I want to do more speaking engagements, serious inquiries only.
Yeah.
And reach out to more schools across the United States, Canada, overseas. My passport has been renewed.
Okay.
There
you go.
And there's that. Then there's also eventually make a documentary. What would be like a life's coming attraction. As far as making a movie and a soundtrack, I know plenty of people who know how to make music. And I know how to do the writing of my own script, directing, be the executive producer, play myself in the movie. It's just a matter of having the right supporting cast.
Yeah.
Because it's like having the movie The Fast and Furious. You have your main characters. But once you have the supporting cast, you got it there. Or it's like the Jackson 5. Michael Jackson was the lead singer, where he had his brothers as the background.
Yeah.
Then you can also look at Tyler Perry movies, where he has these star actors, but he has a supporting cast of people behind the scenes who edit and do all the behind the scenes stuff. I haven't become a husband yet, and I'm still single with a capital S.
Single with a capital S. What is it? What do you mean by that? When you say
It's kind of like Superman with a capital S. I am also a proud uncle again of having a newborn nephew.
Okay.
He's like a son to me. When I spent time with him on Christmas Day, I'm like, you're my firstborn son. You're all mine. I did the bottle test where
check to see if it's too hot.
Yeah, he was happy to see me. I was taking pictures with him. I haven't posted that on social media yet. That's kind of like I want to enjoy looking at it real quick.
Yeah.
And then eventually I'll put it out there that I have a son. Yeah, I'm not on child support. I didn't have to take a DNA test because he's related to me by my sister. Yeah. I miss him so dearly and so much. Look forward to seeing him again, hopefully, this year or in the near future. I do have a niece that's about to turn 17 this month, in the month of February.
Okay.
Next year, she becomes a grown woman and graduates high school. I remember when I first held her like a newborn baby. I talk about that in the book, and she trusted me right away.
Yeah.
I got pictures of that I may not show.
And now she's 17, so time flies.
Yes.
Yeah.
She went from this in my arms to now I'm like, wow, what a transformation.
Yeah, that's how life works, brother.
Yes. But moving forward, I enjoyed my time with being an uncle that day on Christmas Day. It's a priceless time to spend with all four of my siblings that are related to me through the same dad, even though there's different moms involved.
Sure.
But it's just a priceless moment where we no longer have to go through our dad to see each other as adults. We can call, text, email, video chat each other, meet at our brother's house in Philly, and just spend that time together where, we missed out on so much together.
Yeah.
And, we're all spread out doing our own thing individually or sometimes collectively. Like, for example, I have a brother, his name's Cameron A. Smith, who's a professional motocross racer in flat track.
Okay.
Yeah, me and him were like our own kings.
Okay, yeah.
Like, for example, you see all my accolades and everything, and we took pictures together with my book. But there's also a time where I learned I had to be the person in the background when it comes to his success with his profession. Like, for example, I remember one time I was going out to Ohio with him on his motocross race. I was helping out behind the scenes, and I got in the crowd with all the other people after the races was done and got his autograph. I got pictures of that I haven't shown on social media yet. That's going to be a priceless moment to show. Two brothers supporting each other equally.
Yeah.
Equally yoked, whether it's in literature, having lunch together, dinner together, or being at a motocross race together. It just shows that no one's hating on no one. We're just supportive of each other. And that's how it's supposed to be when you have a sibling. Sometimes, I'm not saying anyone in particular, I just say in general, that sometimes some women that are single parents want to treat their sons like a man-child.
Yeah.
Want to treat your son like a boy, but expect him to take on the role of a man when that's not his responsibility. Nor is he equipped or knowledgeable about that. Now you want someone to fill in a position where they already falling short. Then the roles can be reversed where a man might want to treat his daughter like his woman child.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that this whole growing up in a single parent household is not our design. It goes back to the government giving two different messages to people of color, and just a way of keeping people separated, because we're about to have one of the largest population growths here in America. And we have to understand that until we resolve our differences, learn the history of our ancestors' dreams, and realize that some of these messages that you hear on television and sometimes on social media is not the whole truth. You can't jump on the bandwagon all because the Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You're talking to a 49ers fan here, Ethan. Let's not talk about Kansas City Chiefs winning any Super Bowl right now.
Okay. I'll go to another example. You can't jump on the bandwagon of the New England Patriots.
Okay. We can go there.
Yeah. 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 I'm just saying, in life, we can't be jumping on bandwagons when we hear certain messages. We have to research this stuff thoroughly and ask ourselves, is this the whole truth, or is someone just putting out the bait?
Yeah. Well, I feel like what you're doing also, though, Ethan, to bring this all full circle, is being vulnerable like you're doing and being consistent with it. It's obvious that there is no bait. You're just being flat out honest, and you're being truthful and transparent in your storytelling. So for people to love and support you, there's no bandwagon involved there. I can tell it's all genuine, like, admiration. And even the first time that we talked, it was, one of the things I noticed was you have a huge support system, and talking to you now, it sounded like that was all formed from the beginning of everybody reaching out to you and seeing and hearing about your story. So I think it's phenomenal. I'm glad that you asked to come back and we got to talk about the business side of things and how that is for you, because I really see this. I see you doing big things. I see the documentaries, and I do see that movie. I don't know who you say you want to play yourself. So now E94 Poetic's going to be an actor one day, right? So you never know.
Yeah.
I think it's inspirational. I'm grateful. Is there anything you would like to say before we wrap up here?
When it comes to acting, I did make my acting debut in my cousin's short film. Her name is Avita Colon. We went to high school together.
So you got to get a SAG card now.
Yes. You know what I played in one of her movies? I was a person who was played as a dead person with a white cloth over me.
Wow.
And it was food coloring.
Okay.
And the doll started looking at it like it was I don't know, Kool-Aid, whatever.
Okay.
But I made my acting debut in that situation. It was an unsung thing. She awarded me with a Speak to My Soul sweater. What was the question you said before?
I wanted to know, before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to add before we wrap up here?
Yes. My name is E94 Poetic. My book is called The Inspirational Story.
There's the camera right there, brother.
Okay. My story is my book. The title of my book is called The Inspirational Story, E94 Poetic, Chronicles of Adversities, Education, Sports, Relationships, and of course, resiliency. I appreciate everybody's support of my brand, my products, my services. I'll continue to evolve. I'll continue to grow even more. And if you want to buy a book off me directly and have it signed, just go on my website, ethanspeaks.com, or on social media, where my username is Ethan A. Poetic. No, actually, Ethan Poetic 23 on Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram. Then on my YouTube channel, I am Ethan Poetic. Also Ethan Poetic on Facebook, LinkedIn. On Twitter, I am Ethan V23. And I look forward to speaking at your special events. I look forward to the best is yet to come. And I have more work to do that's on a to-do list.
There you go. And it's a big to-do list.
Yeah, it's bigger than a Christmas list.
There you go. It's bigger than a Christmas list. And your time is valuable. So please recognize this man's time is valuable, right? So if they're going to be reaching out to you, hey, money talks. My time is money. Don't waste my time. because what you got going on takes a lot of time. Ethan, I appreciate you jumping back on the Journeyman Chronicles podcast. That's it, brother. We're done, man.
I look forward to always coming back.
All right, man.